Hi everybody, my name is Gabriel Guerrero, and in this video I'm going to be introducing you to a new library I created called ngrx-traits. This library is going to help you to speed up your development by reducing the amount of code related to ngrx that you need to write, okay? Which also reduces the amount of text you need to write, which is going to help you to create and maintain apps faster. The way it does this by something that I call a trait. A trait is a function that returns a set of actions, selectors, reducers, and effects related to a common functionality that you need across your app. Okay. Once you have this trait, you will be able to reuse it in many places, but you will also be able to compose it with other traits, which essentially is going to help you to create a more complex state with complex functionality. You can create your own traits, and this is a great way to share business logic across your app. But the library comes out of the box with a set of traits that by themselves they're going to speed up your development a lot. You can do things like loading a list of entities to a store. You can do pagination of those entities. You can do filtering of those entities. You can do sorting, and something as simple as submitting a form is way easier when you use the traits. Okay, so I know this is starting to sound a little bit confusing, so we're going to see an example with code and you're going to understand much better this. So here we have a very simple list. When the list is loading, it shows a spinner, and once it's loaded, it shows the list, and you will be able to select something. Once if there was nothing selected, the button was disabled, and once you have something selected, if you click on it, you'll see a little spinner there that is doing something. Okay. So let's start seeing some code. That's what we're going to build. So the main function that you need to use is a function that is called create entity feature factory. Okay, this is the function that receives your traits. Okay, so the first trait that we're going to use is a trait that is called addLoadEntitiesTrait. So addLoadEntitiesTrait is going to help you to load a set of entities to the store. It adds a set of properties to the state, okay, where the list that is coming from the backend is going to be stored, and it adds a status property that is going to be we will use to track if the progress of that data. It will also add a set of actions that you're going to need to with that state. It's going to also add a reducer that essentially when those actions get fired, the appropriate properties in the state are going to be set. And of course, it will also add selectors that they're going to allow you to query that stored state. So let's see how this is used. The first thing that you need is, of course, the trait, and you need to pass, for this trait, you need to pass a type for the entity. In this case, my entity is going to be a product. And you're going to see it's a very simple interface that has name, description, etc. Once we have that, we need to store the result of this function in a variable. We can call it entity feature factory, that's fine. And we need to execute this to give us the actions, the selectors, etc. that we need. So you execute the function and it receives two important parameters. One is the actions groups key, which is essentially it's a prefix that is going to be added to all your actions, and it helps to making the actions unique. Okay, and the second parameter is the feature selector. So you probably know already the feature selector. So in ngrx you have a create a feature selector function that allows you to essentially have a slice, define the slice of the global store where your state is going to be stored. So you will normally do this, but there is another way to do this simpler, which is simply pass the string, and this will create the feature selector for you internally. The reason that I allow you to pass your own selector is because there is something that I call the extended setup, where you will be able to combine the generated action selectors with your own manually created actions and selectors, and for that you need to be able to pass that create feature selector. I will show you that in another video. In this video, for this video, it's not going to be needed, but you're going to see now that we have this, and let's call this product feature. Here in this variable is where we have all of our action selectors already created. So when we see this here, you're gonna see we have actions. You see that we have the actions that I showed you in the slide: load entities, load sources, load fail, and we also have the selectors. Select entity, select entities is loading entity success. The typical stuff that you need to use. But there is something that bothers me, which is that the entity's name in all the actions and selectors. So to fix that, there is a first parameter that you can pass to this that is called the entity's name. So once we pass the entity name here, let's call it product, you're gonna see that the name changes. So you see that now our selector is saying is product loading or select product list. So you see it replaces essentially the word entities to the entity name that you defined it. The same thing happens with the actions. You see now we have load products, load fail, load success. If the plural of the word that you chose was not simply the word plus an S, you can specify your own entity's name, okay? But in this case, it is fine the way it is. I want to show you also that when you use the load product success, you're gonna see that they are properly typed. So you see it receives an array of entities of type product. Okay. Now that we have this, we need to do the normal ngrx setup in a module, so we can use them in our example. So let's do that. First, I'm gonna export this in a variable. Let's call it product actions. And we're gonna need to do the same for the selectors. And now we can set up this in a module. So I like to create a module next to my state. So I put my state in a state folder. And so let's use that here. So the first thing you need to do is we need to use the store module full feature for this. So we're gonna put it. Remember that my feature selector, the key is called products. So we're gonna simply use that here. See here that I'm importing the products feature of the trait file, and that comes with a reducer, which is what we need here. And now we just need to install the effects too. So we use the effects module for that. So that's what we need. There is one thing that ngrx doesn't generate for you, which is of course the call to the backend. Okay, so for that we need an effect that is essentially gonna call our backend with the generated actions, and it's gonna bring the results. It's gonna call our service. For that, I have a set of services already pre-created, and I also have a set of presenter components that are gonna speed up this example. So let's call this load entities. There you go, a simple effect that you should probably are all used to do. Simply calling the backend, use the actions that we need. And now that we have this effect, we need to install it in with the other effect that is generated by library. And that's the setup. So now we can use this in our module. Let's go to our container component. This container component already has its own module. I already have the state module here, so we can use this immediately. Now that we have our state and our selectors generated, we just need to use them here. So the first thing that I need here is to fire the action that is going to load our products. So let's use that here. And now we need to create a selector that that is going to have all our selectors joined together, and then we use the store.select to create an observable that we can use in our template. Okay, so we have this selector ready. Now we just need to use it in our template. So like I mentioned, I already have a set of pre-created components. So we're gonna simply bind the data that we have from the store to those components. Okay, now that we go to the example, let's see, it's all working. So one thing I want to show you here is how it fires the action. So you see it's normal ngrx action. You see it's firing the load, and you can see the state here with the slice of that we chose in products, and you see a status loading, and when it's success, and with the data. And of course, you see, notice here the products. This is the prefix that we use here in the trait. So this is what is appending to prefixing to all the actions, and this is of course the slice in the store. Okay, so let's continue. So we have the list loading. Let's go add now as the selection. Okay, so for that we add this trait that is called the addSelectEntityTrait. The addSelectEntityTrait is going to simply store a selection. Okay, there is this version which is a single selection, but there is another version that does multi-selection that you should check out in another video probably, or in the documentation, of course. So this is gonna add to your state the following property, and also it's gonna add actions to select the entity, which of course is gonna create a reducer that using those actions is gonna when they're triggered, is gonna store the right state in our store, and of course you need selectors to query those that state. So it's gonna add those too. So we need to add a type for the entity that you need to use, and once it's added, you're gonna see here that we have new actions. So in this case, we have the select product action and the deselect product action, and of course we have new selectors like select the product selected. Let's use those now in our container. So we add here the products, the selected product. And we just need to bind it into our list. And this component also has an event that when you click a row, is gonna trigger the selection. So I think it's the select product. So let's create a method for that is gonna fire an action. Now when we go back to our example, you're gonna see that when you click, you see the select product is fired, and you're gonna see our new state also has the select product property. Okay, so all that is working fine. And now we're gonna add the checkout button. Okay, so let's go to our trait file, and we add this trait that is called addAsyncActionTrait action. So this action is one of the simplest traits. So the goal of this trait is gonna track a call that is done to the backend. Okay, because we need that progress selector for our checkout button. It's gonna add the following properties to your state depending on the name of the action that you're gonna use. Then it's gonna of course add the respective actions, like a main action, a success action, or failure action, that with a reducer that when those actions occur, they're gonna change the status property accordingly. And of course we need selectors to query the state, so they are added too. So let's see how we use this. The main thing is this name property here. We're gonna call it this checkout, and let me show you what that does. So now when we go to our actions, you're gonna see that we have our checkout action, checkout fail, and checkout success, which is the 3 typical actions that you need, of course. And you might be wondering, how do we add a payload? So there are some properties here that they are for the payload of those 3 actions. So for the main action is the action props, and the success is this one, and the failure is this one. So I don't need a payload for the main action because I am storing the selected product in the store, so I can simply use that. But I'm gonna put a payload to the success action, so you can see how it works. In this, you simply use the props from ngrx, the prop function. In this case, I'm gonna call it order ID. And now when we see the actions here and we go to the checkout success, you're gonna see that it has the order ID as a parameter. Okay, so now that we have those actions, we need an effect, of course, that is gonna be calling our backend and triggering and using those actions. So let's do that now. Let's go to the effect. Let's call this effect checkout. And that's our little effect created. Let's go to the container now to use those to create our checkout button. We need one more selector here, that is the loading of the checkout button, of the checkout process. So this one. Okay, and now that we have this, we simply go to our button, and we need to do the logic here that is gonna disable the button if it's loading, or if there is nothing selected, and show the spinner if it's loading. So now that we have this, we can see how it works. So you can see here the list is loaded, and if we go down, the checkout is disabled. When you click on it, it becomes enabled, and when you click on it, you see the spinner loading. And you can see here that the checkout action was fired and the checkout success. And you're gonna see an extra property here that is for the checkout status. And that's it for this video. I will be doing more videos. There's going to be another video that is going to be about extending this example. So where I will be adding filtering, sorting, pagination, even infinite scrolling. There's going to be another video about how to create your own traits. And there's going to be another video about local traits. So local traits is one of my favorite features of the library, which essentially allows you to transform any setup that you have of traits and make it behave like a local store. By local store, I mean that instead of the actions and the state being global, they will depend on a component. So when the component is created, the reducers, the effects, they are registered, and when the component is destroyed, they will also be destroyed. And any action that is fired only affects the state, the instance of that component. So each instance of a component will have its own state. And that's it. Please, any feedback, leave it below in the video, and please also check the documentation in the GitHub webpage. I hope you have a nice day. Bye.